Coming up, the restart of leg 3, but there's conflict on the dock.
They should be thrown out of leg 3 of the Volvo race.
Casualties on Asa, will they be able to hang on to their lead?
Now I'm going to go out and ask if they want me on the boat or not.
And the City of Sails welcomes the Volvo fleet. The Volvo fleet has now arrived in Hobart, and as predicted, it was an eventful 3-hour pit stop. The problem started as soon as Asa Abloy arrived in first place. Watch leader Magnus Olsen was taken to hospital with back problems, emerging from his checkup an hour later.
There wasn't anything serious, it's just a big bruising in this area, and I was afraid a little bit that it was an organ called the spine. But she said, the doctor up there, that it's okay.
So, are you going to be back rated?
Well, now I'm going to go out and ask if they want me on the boat or not. I cannot contribute anything, but perhaps in a day I can do cooking and all that. So perhaps that's good enough.
Magnus was rushed back to the waiting crew by speedboat and welcomed back on board by Neil. If nothing else, he'll keep them smiling.
Back on the dock, and there was a conflict brewing. News Corp were protesting Tyco for not making one of their mandatory radio checks during the Sydney to Hobart race. But skipper Kevin Shoebridge was confident they had complied with the rules.
We're adamant we're in the right, we're adamant. There's no dispute that we didn't report, we did report. It's just a matter of time. We think we did it 43 minutes after the hour, which is allowed under the rule. And they're saying we did it about 4 minutes after that, which would count us out. So we've got a lot of positions and times and logs of when we've done things, and we're applying for redress, which is going to be heard at midday, and we're hopeful it's going to be overturned.
But Ross Field was not convinced.
They should be thrown out of leg 3 of the Volvo race because they have basically violated not only the sailing instructions of our race, but also the Sydney to Hobart race. And the organisers, the CYC, have put those requirements in for one very, very good reason, and that's for safety. And as I understand, they've violated it.
It's an argument that will continue in Auckland, but if Tyco are found to have broken race rules, it'll be a disaster for the team who need every point they can get.
The fight was continuing on Sports 2 to mend their forestay. They'd stopped up the coast to pick up parts and are now battling to get back into the race. But as they arrived into Hobart, Asa were already leaving, and the reality of how far behind they were suddenly hit home. Once again, the women's team were bringing up the rear of the fleet.
It's terrible. I'm gutted. But as we were coming in, the boys were going out, and for every metre we go this way, they're gaining 2 that way. So it was devastating, yeah.
It's good to get here, but yeah, I mean, it's just not fun being late, you know?
But worse was to come.
That's all right, it's cracked.
On the way in, they'd hit a shark, and although initial inspections hadn't shown any major problems, a closer look revealed there was serious damage to the rudder.
It's not pretty. The major thing is whether there's cracks that, you know, the rudder could shear off later on. It's okay if there's just a bit of glass peeling off, it's not okay, but we could probably get to Auckland, but if there's some cracks there, that's what I'm looking for, then we probably won't make it to Auckland.
The call was made not to carry on and stay in Hobart overnight to carry out repairs.
I think we made the right choice. Yeah, we've got a bit of work to do before we get racing again.
There was little sleep as the team worked round the clock to repair the rudder. With 3 serious cracks, they had to make sure it was strong enough for the final sprint to Auckland.
Just have to rise to the game, and it's another day out there and you live to fight it.
With the repairs complete, the boat was lowered back into the water to continue leg 3. A day and a half behind the rest of the fleet, this is a serious setback, but they're determined to pick up that vital point, and with SEB out of the leg, they won't be arriving last.
For the other 6 boats, the race to Auckland was already underway. Asa Abloy were the first to leave the Tasmanian coastline, but the chasing pack were closing the gap. Ama1 and Tycho were still in sight and fighting it out for second, while the battle for third was just as close. Just a few minutes behind Tycho were the Deuce Dragons, News Corp and Ilbrook.
We're looking forward to 1,400 miles of pure excitement.
Day 4 and Asa Abloy took a gamble and ventured north in search of stronger winds. In doing so, they surrendered their lead to Ama1 and dropped back to 4th. The rest of the fleet took a more southerly route to Auckland, but by the end of the day, Asa had already made gains, moving back up to 2nd behind Ama1.
And we like where we are. We got 4 boats to the south of us, and we have a fairly good lead on. And we got 1 boat that might be dangerous to the north of us, Asa. But they're quite a bit north. They're 30 miles north. And that could be good for them or bad for them. We just don't know. We feel like we're more connected with the boats to the south, and hopefully our position will pan out.
On both the previous 2 legs, Asa's navigator, Mark Rudiger, gambled and got it wrong. This time, as they head across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand, things were looking much more promising.
The boat's been sailing along nice and smooth and quiet, so I've been able to snooze. So now, and I wake up to Magnus saying we're in the lead again, so that really makes me feel good.
Day 5 and problems on board for overall race leaders Ilbrook.
So the breeze puffed up to 35 within a couple of seconds and lifted us something like 30 to 50 degrees, and we did one of the worst wipeouts I've ever been involved with.
Several of the battens in the mainsail had been broken after the boat had broached. The sail had to be lowered twice so Noel Drennan could carry out essential repairs.
Rock and Roll Noel is actually starred with his batten repair kit. He only had a small kit that was to replace maybe 2 to 3 battens, and he's managed to do the whole lot.
Meanwhile, the women are enjoying being back on the racetrack, but they've got a lot of catching up to do.
New Zealand, here we come. Oh, we don't make life easy for ourselves.
So by the end of day 5, Asa Abloy has moved into first place with a 23-mile lead over Amasports 1. Then there's a big gap to third, more than 60 miles back. But the race between Tycho, News Corp, Ilbrook and Deuce is as close as ever, just 4 miles separating them. While Amasports 2 are now more than 400 miles behind the leaders.
Volvo skippers Kevin Shoebridge and Grant Dalton may be good friends, but in this race, they're fierce rivals. Two of New Zealand's favourite sailing sons, they first teamed up on Lion New Zealand in the Whitbread back in 1985, and then again in '93 when they steered New Zealand Endeavour to victory, while 4 years ago they finished second on Merit Cup.
Oh, they've been good friends.
We've been mates for years. I mean, we go back a long way. I mean, what are you now, 47? And, you know, we go back 20-odd years, you know, more.
So I think we were lucky to be brought up in that point in time in New Zealand where this sport sort of just started booming, you know, and there's a whole bunch of guys, you know, the likes of us and the Tony Rays and the Mike Coulters and Brad Butterworth and that. We all sort of came through the thing together, and it's been fantastic because all those guys are still going, all still mates.
It needs to be fun because there ain't a lot of fun out there, and it's good just having the old team around, you know, because they don't work for me now, they're working for Shube, really. And that, I enjoy that. I mean, one of the reasons I do this is because I like being with the boys, you know.
Have you learned from Grant over the years?
Absolutely, most definitely, yes.
What sorts of things? What sort of things have you picked up from?
Is probably his biggest endearing factor, I guess, is his motivation and his
cleanliness. Cleanliness.
Motivation and his drive to do well. But you know, having drive and determination goes a long way in these projects. You know, because
energy. It's an energy game.
You know, it's an endurance race, and you got to keep yourself and 20 other people motivated for nearly 2 years. It's a hard thing to do.
This leg to Auckland is crucial for both of them. Grant Dalton was first into New Zealand in the last 2 races, while Kevin Shoebridge has done one better and been first into his home port in all of the last 3 Whitbreads.
It's importantly for every Kiwi in this race, you know, and there's a hell of a lot of us. I mean, we dominate the fleet, basically. But you wouldn't find a Kiwi in this race who doesn't want to be first to Auckland. It's important.
Fantastic feeling, you know, sailing into Auckland first is it's a huge highlight of the race. You know, it's as good as coming over the finish in first place almost.
It's hardest almost for us. I mean, Shube's won 3 into Auckland. I won 2. I mean, we've almost got the hardest job of the lot, you know. There's such huge expectation that one of us is going to lead in. And you could end up doing something silly if you're not careful. We came pretty close to smacking into the top of New Zealand last time, trying to get up inside the breakers to pass Swedish Match. And you got to, you know, if you push that another 20 yards in, we could have been left the boat at the top. So we just got to be careful.
Finally, gentlemen, how important is it for all of the fleet to stop Ilbrook?
Hugely important. If they put 3 away in a row, we're all in trouble, I'd say.
Yeah. It's that serious? You think that could be it?
Well, it won't help anybody, you know. They're not faster anymore, though, eh? You know, I don't know. I mean, they're not quicker. They're just smooth. I tell you, they're a polished, smooth act. They don't make mistakes, you know. And if they get themselves in a bad situation, they wait it out, and they've just sailed really well. They don't have the edge that EF had last time, speed-wise. I mean, that thing was a bullet. They're fast and they're smooth, as Sid says, you know.
For the record, Kevin Shoebridge won the pool match, but on the water, Grant Dalton is currently on top in the overall race standings.
I sail, I don't play pool.
Day 6, New Year's Eve, and leaders Asa Abloy continue to make gains on the fleet, pulling away from second place Amasports 1. Their northerly course is still paying dividends, and so far the problems have been confined to the galley.
Look at the water, gas is coming out everywhere and I have no control over it.
Do you want me to pass you a match, Magnus?
No, then we're gonna blow up. The boys are waiting for a good dinner and I don't even have gas, it's a disaster.
No problems cooking food aboard the Deuce, however keeping it off the floor was a problem for navigator Jean-Yves Bernot.
What has happened? What have you done? You had an accident? Yes.
But there were more headaches for Jean-Yves on the racetrack. The decision to take a more southerly route to New Zealand has left the Deuce in 6th place, 150 miles behind the leaders. Meanwhile, Ilbrook, News Corp and Tycho continually trade places as they fight it out for 3rd. Still only a couple of miles in it, Tycho's staying in the hunt despite hitting a shark.
We ran over it doing about, I don't know, 17 knots. Felt a bit of a thud and the boat started wobbling and we dropped about 4 knots of speed for a while and couldn't get it off the keel, so we were trying to sort out how we were going to get it off the keel, and then got on a wave, went a bit quicker and it shook itself free.
New Year's Day brought rougher conditions, the wind speed and direction changing constantly, forcing the crews to make several sail changes. But New Zealand is almost in sight and spirits are high.
First time in 10 years maybe I didn't have a hangover on New Year's Day.
Coming up after the break, Asa Abloy ahead, but can they hold on to their lead? Day 8 and nervous times for the front 5 boats as they approach Cape Reinga off the north coast of New Zealand. There's precious little wind there, and with only a couple of days until they reach Auckland, leg 3 is still wide open. And no one will be looking over their shoulders more than 3rd place Ilbrook.
We're struggling to handle a 3rd place. We've got 2 boats right behind us, News Corp and Tycho, and Dalton and Asa Abloy just in front of us, so it's all starting to close up. The next few hours will be pretty tricky getting around the top of New Zealand and then down the other side.
We just got to hunt them down. We've come in a little bit here. We've seen News Corp like 3 miles in front of us or so. We're about 20 miles from the top of New Zealand. And we're slowly closing them down. We're looking forward to a nice light air run against them. A bit of action going down the coast, and hopefully we can get ourselves another place here, which we sorely need.
Amasports 1 skipper Grant Dalton has been first into his home port in New Zealand in the last 2 races. A sailing legend in this country, this time he may have to settle for 2nd.
I think we have to look at the leg where Asa, you know, really was the rogue, sailed away on its own, the right way I'd have to say in this time, but the 2 legs before this has gone the wrong way when they've sailed away by themselves. So we kind of split the difference, and our 2 real main opposition, which are Ilbrook and Tycho, are tucked away at the moment, and that from a points point of view is in the big picture more important.
It's not over yet, though. 200 miles to the finish, and in 14 hours, Alma 1 have cut Assa's lead from 50 miles to just 20. And Assa are 2 men down. Magnus is off watch, and Jason Carrington has suspected kidney stones.
Jason in his bunk here, he's not smoking cigarette. That's the thermometer. Try and take his temperature, see if the fever's come down or going up. Been treated with suppositories of antibiotics in the bottom. Not easy to administer injections on board the yacht. Clever seems to be doing a very nice job indeed.
At the rear end of the fleet, Deduce Dragons are still struggling to catch the front 5, while the women's boat are another 2 days behind.
I can't wait to go home up to the Bay of Islands, eat my mum's roasted chicken dinner, and go and play a game of golf out at Carey Cliffs Golf Club.
Dawn on day 9 and Assa Abloy have held on to their lead. Despite every effort from Grant Dalton to be first into his home port, it's Neil MacDonald who takes the honours in the Hauraki Gulf. With the finish line now in sight, they've managed to pull off the double.
Look, how many fingers? 2 for victory, 1 victory there, Sydney Hobart, another victory there. Sydney Auckland, yes!
Assa Abloy desperately needed this win, and for the Kiwis on board, the timing couldn't have been better.
I've been dreaming about this all my life, every single day, and here we are. Wow.
Grant Dalton's been clawing back the miles over the past 2 days. He's now just 24 miles back, but Assa know they're out of danger.
He's got a reputation for being a bit of a comeback kid. So we were a bit worried for a while, but we stayed cool. He's back there and we're here now, so that's all that matters.
As they jibe for the line, the leg is finally over, and Assa Abloy have a win under their belts.
Okay, you ready now, spike it! Bearing away! Fantastic! Oh, I can't talk, mate. Rudy! You're a beauty, mate. I'm going to be living off this for the rest of my days. Halfway around the world, 10 months since I've been home. And, wow, what a feeling. What an amazing feeling. I never dreamed, not 1 second, that this could happen.
Mark, it must be a huge relief.
It is now that we finished. They stopped looking back. It was pretty obviously tense the whole time. Tough leading from the front.
This win is even more remarkable given they were 2 crew members down. Jason Carrington with suspected kidney stones and Magnus with a bad back.
I had a bit of pain in my lower back and a little bit sort of down here. And this feeling of really wanting to go to have a pee, but every time I tried to pee, I couldn't pee. And then finally when I could, it was a very small amount and the blood in it, and it was pretty horrible.
It is stressful, but would have been worse if we would have been less good position and all this have happened, and that would be dreadful. But this is great. I feel good. Jason is, I mean, he's definitely recovered well, and Magnus has also recovered fantastically well. And I mean, we're here first. It can't be better. I mean, it's just great.
While Assa celebrate, New Zealand's hero Grant Dalton is coming to terms with second. After winning in the past 2 races, he couldn't pull off the hat trick.
And Assa Abloy sailed a great race. You know, they took it right out of Hobart. They went for it, and they've done a fantastic job. And congratulations to Neil. He really deserved it, and he beat us fair and square.
We were all as desperate for him to be here first, but you know, I'm quite sure he realised just how valuable second place was to us, and yeah, you know, there was that odd chance of us getting in the first, but you know, we done our best, and second was what we'd come up with.
But despite missing out on the win, they've now moved up in the table to second overall. Not bad for a team that came together just 2 months before the start.
The fight for third was always going to be close, but no one was expecting the battle that unravelled on the Hauraki Gulf. Ilbrook, Tycho and News Corp match racing to the finish. Tycho had been at the back of the pack, but a brave tactical move to go around the outside of Tiri Tiri Island had got them back in the race. Ilbrook and News Corp were covering each other's every move. News Corp desperate to prevent Ilbrook gaining an extra point. But this was make or break for Tycho. Lying 7th overall, only a podium position will be enough, and they knew the pressure was on. But gradually they pulled out a comfortable lead. With Ilbrook and News Corp just minutes behind them, they crossed the line. Their first podium position of the race, and Kevin Shoebridge had done it in his home port.
Fantastic. I tell you, we only knew 15, 20 minutes for the finish, so it was great. Huge relief, because you know the league had been a bit of a disappointment up to that stage. We'd struggled across the Tasman with speed against Ilbrook and the really fresh reaching conditions, so it was nice to be able to come back.
The driving rain did little to dampen spirits. Tycho have now moved up the table from 7th to 5th overall, plus they've proved they can beat Ilbrook.
The battle for 4th was decided on the line, Ilbrook just having the edge. A bitter disappointment for Jez Vanstone, who's always said that Ilbrook were beatable. But this won't be a good feeling for either team. John Kostecki is used to being on the podium.
We had some tough breaks, and you know, the other team sailed better than us. We made some mistakes here and there, and so we deserve what we got. But we're overall leader, you know, at the moment, so we're happy.
Their overall lead, though, has been cut to just 3 points, and the competition has stepped up a gear. For News Corp, this has been a disappointing leg. Not only have they been beaten by Ilbrook, but they've also dropped from 2nd to 3rd overall.
Everyone put in 110%, and it's just a little bit disappointing that we didn't finish the job and get the 3rd place. But fantastic effort by everyone.
Oh, disappointing, very disappointing. Yeah, we were right in there right till the very end, just to lose it right at the end like that is a bit, shattering.
And there was more bad news for the team. Veteran navigator and tactician Ross Field is unlikely to be on board for the next leg.
In the second leg, I got thrown off the wheel and crashed and broke about 2 ribs, and also damaged my back. And I've had a series of injections in my spine, and it's just not helping. So I'm probably going to take this leg off, and hopefully maybe I'll have a minor operation and get it fixed.
Now 5 points off the lead, they'll need a good result on leg 4 to stay on the podium.
But the boat that needs a result more than any other is De Juice. Arriving in 6th place, Knut Frostad is clearly frustrated.
How I feel? Shouldn't say that on TV, I guess, but I don't feel very well about it now. Now we're disappointed. It was a hard leg for us. We started hard, we came well out of Sydney, and our Halley lock broke and filled the boat up with water and did all kinds of things. But so it was a struggle to Hobart, but we got out of Hobart in 4th, which was pretty good. And then we choose to follow the wrong guys. And we had a speed problem with Ilbrook and the guys on tight reaching, jib reaching. So we got left behind there all the time, and that was frustrating.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy. This is not a good result, and we didn't sail well. And I think we basically knew where we did the mistakes, and we can only learn from it and go forward from there. But it's not satisfying.
Finally, more than a day and a half after the rest of the fleet, Sports 2 arrived to the biggest reception yet. Their placing never seems to affect their ability to pull the crowds.
Big enough sense of achievement that we've overcome our problems to get here, but the reward of actually coming here and seeing everyone just fires up the crew and, gets everyone excited to take on the next leg.
As bad as it was a leg for us, it's you sort of forget about it when you get in here and see all these people.
They may be last to arrive, but the champagne was certainly flowing. So after 3 legs, this is how it looks. Ilbrook still in pole position on 21 points, with Sports 1 moving up to 2nd. News Corp have slipped to 3rd, with Asa Abloy moving up to 4th. Tycho have jumped 2 places to 5th, with SEB dropping to 6th after retiring from the leg with rudder problems. De Juice is now in 7th after another disappointing finish, with Sports 2 bringing up the rear.
Coming up next time, SEB arrive in Auckland after problems with their rudder.
The main reason for the frustration is that we're here to race and we've not been able to.